I think like one way to really step into the version of yourself that you see as like the highest version of you is to consistently and all the time put yourself in very uncomfortable places and environments, because that's the only way to grow. And I think my mindset right now when it comes to like working and pursuing this whole venture with Reminded is that if I do not feel some level of discomfort, then there must be something wrong.
What does a high-performing athlete and entrepreneur have in common? Their mindset. Our guest today is a youth Olympian in table tennis. And with her background in molecular biosciences, she is now the founder and CEO of a MedTech startup called Reminded. Annika is going to share her beautiful story around her resilience and her confidence as she is out there setting a new standard for mental health assessment through a data-driven, biomarker-based, and objective approach. Our conversation today is transparent, it's vulnerable, it's authentic. And for any of you female founders out there, get your favorite coffee or tea and listen in to be inspired and empowered and encouraged by what Annika has to share. She's going to drop some amazing, thoughtful nuggets with you that I hope will resonate as you are embarking on your own entrepreneurial journeys. Let's join the conversation today. On today's episode of the GST Factor podcast, I am honored to have Annika Lundström on the call today. Hi, Annika. How are you?
Hi, Misha. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
I'm so excited for you to be here. So, Annika, you are an amazing female founder, entrepreneur that's doing incredible things and in the biotech, medtech space. So, I'm so excited for this conversation. But let's hear a little bit about your story and what you're doing to change the world.
For sure. I come originally from a very different place where I'm currently located, which is San Francisco, California. So I was born and raised in Helsinki, Finland. So up in the Nordics, very dark, very cold. But I've definitely found the path that I resonate with and the mission that I want to pursue as for my rest of my life career. But I started out in a very different industry than medtech for sure. So a large chunk of my life, I've been a high performance athlete. So I started table tennis when I was like 6 years old, fell in love with the sport, really not the national sport in my country whatsoever. But for some reason, I truly resonated with the whole concept of like the spin and the like complexity of utilizing your own tactics and the whole concept around the sport. So started practicing quite religiously, got into the national team, top 10 players in Europe eventually. And then I had this one goal in my mind that I wanted to try to qualify to the Youth Olympics, and dedicated a whole year off school and just practice like 5 to 6 hours every day. And eventually at the end of that season, I did qualify to the Youth Olympics in 2018 and played there in Buenos Aires, Argentina. But that also sparked actually the whole inspiration to what I'm currently pursuing. Because at the same time, when I was like 16, 17 years old and having a lot of pressure on my shoulders, I did not have enough context to take care of my body in the best way. So this whole journey definitely took a toll on my mental and physical health, which just showcase to me how fundamental your health is in order to actually perform, let's say, in a table tennis match or show up for your relationships. And that also then led me down the path of research and academia within the field. So when I stopped playing, I went into molecular biosciences at the University of Helsinki, studied that for a couple of years, and then found the whole avenue about startups and wanted to give it my best shot to pursue something within the field of medtech. And yeah, it's a very like personal cause why I want to work for mental and physical health. And yeah.
Such an amazing story. I love your why and how you are channeling that why now into this med tech space. So, Annika, let's talk about Reminded, which is the name of your company. And let's share with our listeners today a little bit more about it and what you're doing.
For sure. So Reminded is a medical technology startup developing a medical device through a saliva-based test for measuring cortisol. So you can kind of see it like a corona test for stress measuring. So in a biosensor technology that we have developed, we are able to, in a very easy and accessible way, take these health checkups, and it would be implemented for mental health care institutions, since the field definitely do still have some room for improvement when it comes to the general assessment and decision making for patients who are suffering through these kinds of issues. So right now, we've been working on this for 1.5 years, and in the last 5 to 6 months, it has definitely like accelerated both on the investment side and the technical development.
It's so exciting, and I've gotten to hear you pitch a number of times. You actually have been part of the Vanderbilt University Entrepreneur and Innovation Center, the Wondery, which is how I first met you, because I got to listen and judge one of your pitch competitions. But as you have continued to navigate, this med tech space, you have done so with such grace and poise and knowledge. And it's so exciting to be supporting you and amplifying your message. I think it resonates for so many individuals. And I think you've seen such a need in the market. And I just want to commend you for really taking that action. And as we say here, getting shit done. And so really love that. And thank you for doing that, because I think so many people will benefit from this across many industries. But I really love the fact that you're taking that mental health, focus first. But talk to us about that mindset as an Olympian and, taking as an athlete, right? Taking that mindset and now shifting and pivoting that into your entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes. I definitely see very strong parallels between the worlds of entrepreneurship and high performance sports, because I don't know why, but I've always been truly fascinated about the concept of like scaling something from ground up and utilizing your own potential and powers to truly see what is possible without those like standardized limits that a lot of people put on you. And yes, it do requires a lot of work and figuring out things without having too much context on like how to actually pursue things forward. But the only way to actually find some kind of like progress within the field that you want to be in, you just have to put yourself out there, because there will never be like a perfect timing to go into something that you truly like resonate with. And I have utilized different skills, I would say, in order to stay sane in this game so far, at least. Which is, I wouldn't have started this in the first place if I wouldn't believe that it could actually be possible to take it all the way to like a successful venture. So why would I spend my precious time to, tell myself the thoughts that I actually don't want to become true? And you just have to be so careful about what you actually have in your mind on a daily basis, because that will eventually like affect every single conversation that you go into when it comes to talking with investors or trying to secure down like partnerships, and that shines through so clearly. So the inner like confidence and the level of like security that you have it within yourself is the most like fundamental part to pursue anything, I would say. So those things are on top of my mind like all the time in order to do this.
Beautifully shared. I love that. So when we think about the GST Factor Life, right, we think about our 6 attributes of be confident, inquisitive, imaginative, be present, resilient, and influential. Is there a attribute that you're really leaning into right now that you want to share with our listeners?
So if you would have asked me like 2 months ago when I was really down in the depths of still fundraising, I definitely would have said resilience, and I actually have it tattooed here on my wrist. But now, when we have moved past that phase and into something much more exciting, which is like growing the company in various ways, I have now gone into a timeline of confidence, I would say. So that's the like main thing that I've secured for myself right now, and it's a good feeling. But it fluctuates, of course, from day to day. But as of right now, is where we are.
So many entrepreneurs like yourself do fluctuate between resilience and confidence and all of the in betweens. Talk to us about what were some of those things that you were feeling during the resiliency phase and now kind of into this confidence phase. Because, you know, what we really want to have here in our conversations is, hey, we want to celebrate all the wins, but we also really want to highlight too those tough times, those times when things are not going so well. And I think that that's really where our true authentic selves come out. And it's those true authentic conversations that come out. And we pride ourselves on being a space where entrepreneurs are especially going to hear the good, bad, the ugly in between and all of it. And so maybe talk to us about that, those two periods that you had and why you had to leverage those attributes into those different seasons, because I think it'll be really inspiring and encouraging for our listeners.
Yeah, happy to share. So I would say it is a very false perception to have that everything has to be perfect all the time in order for you to show up or, be able to proceed like forward. And I just have come to notice that I can still perform without having to feel like excellent all the time. It is a very like tough thing to expect from yourself that every single day would, be as you want it to be, and nothing within a startup specifically will ever go exactly as you have planned in your mind. And you just have to be ready to make adjustments and iterate accordingly to what you are presented with, and that the current information that you have, and make the most out of it every single day. Another aspect which is really hard when, let's say, you go through a phase of like fundraising, is the whole aspect of uncertainty that comes alongside of it, because you still have to show up in the same exact way with the same enthusiasm and happiness and encouragement and excitement for those conversations when you want to have someone involved with you. But you don't know that will this conversation lead to the outcome that I want, or the one that I will have in 5 months with someone else. And I think that is the hardest concept. But I do believe that it must go against some physical law, that if I'm putting in all this effort and I'm trying to make the necessary changes for this to come to an end, that I won't get the gratification from that work. But you don't necessarily have to know when or why. But if you can put your head on the pillow and know that I've done everything that I could within my own powers to do the right thing, then you're good. You will be rewarded. I just seen it on such a like continuous basis around me, and now in my own life as well. So I know that if we would go into a next, let's say, fundraising round, I can still be as resilient as I was a couple of months ago. But for right now, I'm more than happy to not have to do that so actively. But yeah. So, and I think once you prove to yourself that you're able to pursue something like that, then you gain confidence in various ways. And another thing is also, the more that you practice, the more you put yourself in those truly uncomfortable situations and say the wrong things, then it becomes less and less intimidating. But that's the thing that a lot of people assume, that you have to be like perfect when you start, but that's a very, very high ask from yourself.
Annika, so many beautiful nuggets that you've shared there with entrepreneurs. And I hope our entrepreneur listeners are taking notes and replaying this, because I think what you've just shared is so key to entrepreneurial mindset, because there are ebbs and flows. There are seasons of, I talk a lot about in my book, like there's seasons of doing, there's seasons of being. And as an entrepreneur, you still have to ebb and flow in those, but there are going to be those moments that are, you're in that grow mode, or you're in that creation mode, or you're in that build mode, or whatever it is. And you have to extend yourself grace and kindness for that season that you're in, and meet yourself where you're at in that moment. Would you agree?
Definitely, yes. And again, touching on the subject of the internal thoughts that you have with yourself, because that conversation will be, well, crucial for your success or failure within your startup and the phase that you're in. So yeah, I think like I've become a lot better at like catching myself when I do spiral down sometimes in those like negative thought patterns, and ensuring to myself that, is this actually based on facts, or is that just the like natural pattern for me to choose? So it's a good to like be able to like distinguish between those two.
So, what advice would you give to your younger self as you were embarking on this entrepreneurial idea and thought? What advice do you wish someone had shared with you at the very beginning of your journey?
You can't expect to have all the answers by yourself. Learn from a lot of people who have already successfully gone through the process that you want to pursue. Not everyone will resonate with your story, and that's 100% okay. And another thing would probably be that you would rather want to be quite polarizing to truly find the people who want to be involved with you, than to be in the gray zone of being liked by everyone. Because then you find the people that you want to work with, you find the investors that want to be supporting you, you find the partnerships and other people who see that what you're pursuing is valuable. So I think I've set a very solid foundation within me to know who I am when I look myself in the mirror. And that has taken a lot of time, but it's the greatest feeling to have as well, because I know that no one will be able to like knock that over if I have worked internally enough on myself. So I think that's an aspect that a lot of people probably do not work enough on. And I think if you can cover that whole category, then the rest of the things will eventually come for you as well.
Beautifully said. And I think what sometimes entrepreneurs think is, oh, I need to appease. I need everybody to like me so that everybody will buy, or everybody will invest, or everybody will help. But being and living out your true authentic self keeps you true to yourself and who you are. But then it also becomes, it shows that you and your company or your product, whatever it is that you're putting out into the world, is truly authentic as well. And what you see is what you get. And yes, better to be polarizing than to acquiesce to everybody else, because the fact is it's going to kind of cut through the noise to get to that right person, to get to that right consumer, to get to that right partner. And so the fact that you have learned this at such an early stage in your entrepreneurial journey, I just want to commend you, because that's, such an amazing place to be in. And as we think about, within our theme for this season of stepping into your extraordinary, how is Annika stepping into her extraordinary with her company going into this next exciting year of innovation and growth and scale for you all?
Yeah, that's a really great concept overall. I just want to highlight that for you as well, that I love that you're focusing on that theme as of right now. I think throughout this year overall, it has been such a like transformative year for me in various ways, like moving 4,000 kilometers away from my support system and family, putting myself in situations and meeting milestones that I wouldn't have been able to even like think about a couple of years ago. I think like one way to really step into the version of yourself that you see as like the highest version of you is to consistently and all the time put yourself in very uncomfortable places and environments, because that's the only way to grow. And I think my mindset right now when it comes to like working and pursuing this whole venture with Reminded is that if I do not feel some level of discomfort, then there must be something wrong. And I think it can feel very paradoxical, but that's the only way to think about it, because growth has to come alongside with like uncertainty as well. So yeah, and then something else is also that I kind of when I'm in a situation where I feel a little bit like unfamiliar with how to like navigate and so on, I would kind of like question like, so if I would have my like biggest idol within medical technology, so how would that person kind of react or highlight this particular subject, and then kind of try to pick certain like small pieces from that into my own personality within this. So yeah, but it's no like clear pathway, I would say, but it's a matter of just narrowing down your focus on the things that actually move the needle forward, and seeing like what are the things that I can control to move forward in the pace that I want.
You touched on that influential and looking to those influences in your life, right? And who do you look, and it's a really important concept that we talk about within the GSC Factor Life, but it's learning from every experience, but it's also learning something from everything and everyone we talk about. And it's having those mentors that we look up to, those heroes, those sheroes. And sometimes when we are feeling alone in that moment, you are still connected. There's still a way to gain that inspiration and that encouragement, and look at those that have gone before us and say, okay, they are my inspiration for this moment, or they are my inspiration for this day, because that all fluctuates as well. So I'm so glad that you touched on that, because I think that that's a really important concept for entrepreneurs that are early in their journeys.
Yes, yeah, and something else is also that if you can come to the acceptance that this is what hard actually feels like, then it's okay, because it doesn't have to be so great, um, if you do choose to go down this quite unusual path and journey for yourself, then that just like naturally has to be out of the box of like the ordinary pathway to life that a lot of people choose. So then yes, it can lead to like excellence and results that a lot of people will never be able to even fathom. But then those like emotional roller coasters are just like a natural part of it as well, and I think I've come to like accept that now, instead of like taking those like setbacks and like slaps in my face as something negative. It's just a natural path of it at all. So I come to enjoy it now also, so because that kind of like humbles you every now and then when you get down to earth. So
Annika, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and sharing your story. We're excited to follow you and the success of Reminded. Thank you for what you're bringing to this world and changing the world. And everybody, be sure to follow Annika on. We've provided all of her links in our show notes, and stay tuned for all the amazing things to come. Annika, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. I hope that our listeners today have really taken so many notes and taken so many things to heart that you've shared, because I appreciate how transparent and vulnerable and authentic you've been with us today. Is there any other leaving thoughts that you want to share with our listeners as we close out?
well, first of all, just thank you, Misha, for having me on. This has been really great, and I love the work that you do in general when it comes to highlighting both the good and the bad within this interesting world, let's say. And outside of that, um, I would say a thing that I've come to notice is that this whole business world can be quite cold and difficult to navigate. So I try to repeat to myself that just don't let the world turn you cold. It's very important. It's a very good reminder, because as you meet a lot of interesting individuals alongside this whole thing, you have many reasons to bite back or become bitter or something else. But I do believe that in the long run, that will not serve you in any way. So stay true to yourself, and then the rest will eventually come for you.
Amazing. All right, Annika, we're so proud of you. Keep getting shit done, okay?
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our listeners. And don't forget to keep getting your shit done too. Take care. Thank you for listening to the GSD Factor podcast. I'm your host, Misha Blameyer-Farish. Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, as I love connecting with our listeners to hear how you are getting shit done in your personal and professional life. Be sure to visit our website at gsdfactor.com, where you can take a persona assessment that's going to help you figure out what type of GSDer you are. There's also a ton of resources and tools for both yourself and your tiny humans in your life. We appreciate you rating and subscribing our podcast episode today. And don't forget to get shit done.